Hey, before we get started on this episode, I wanted to let you know that this is a special episode of the Real Mississippi podcast. I got a chance to sit down with our operating principal, our main broker here at the Keller Williams office. Many of you know that I am a realtor with Keller Williams. And so this was a special one to get to sit down with him and talk about him growing, from really nothing here. No one knew who Keller Williams was to now the number one real estate company in the market. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm going to get right into it. We did this in conjunction with his podcast that he does. And so I hope you enjoy it. It is a little heavy on the real estate side, but I think it applies to other areas of business and life as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is Real Mississippi. Welcome to this episode of the Real Mississippi podcast, and kind of in conjunction with the Career Conversations with Phil podcast that we do here in our market center. And because of that, I have a great opportunity today to have a really special guest, really special to me, and that is our OP operating principal, would you say the owner of the branch or the franchise?
Co-owner.
Co-owner
Yep.
of the franchise here of Keller Williams in Flowood, Mississippi, Phil Landers.
Terrific. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you on as part of my podcast.
Perfect.
And I hope we get some good stuff here for yours too.
I'm sure we will.
So want to kind of jump right into it and get back. Now you've been doing this. We opened this branch, or I'd say this location, not even at this location. You opened in Mississippi in 2006, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Take us back to before that. So what were you doing before you even thought about getting into real estate?
So I was in the oil and gas industry working for the largest natural gas company in America at the time. My job for them was to attract packages of gas to our infrastructure out in the Gulf of Mexico. So I was in business development is kind of what I did. Got a mechanical engineering degree from Mississippi State and a master's degree from Louisiana Tech University. In MBA, so to speak. So I was perfect in the business development world for the oil and gas industry. What happened was I received a phone call from my mom. And by the way, I was in that business for 27 years, roughly 27 years doing that. Received a phone call from my mom on Christmas Day that her husband passed away. Now, my father had passed away when I was a young boy, and she remarried this gentleman who lost his wife and daughter in a car wreck. And Christmas Day, she calls me and said he passed away suddenly. And so I just thought, oh my, I need to get back to Mississippi. I'm the first and oldest of three kids she has. And being the boy, I just felt somewhat responsible for the family. Right. And so I moved back to Mississippi. I was married with my wife, Marcia. We been married, I guess, at that time, probably about 35 years. We have three kids, two of them in college. And so we both resigned. She was a high school biology teacher. We resigned and moved back to Mississippi. No income, two kids in college.
That's a big step to just do with
nothing
established where you're going.
It's a huge step, and with nothing established where we're going. And so I feel our agents out there when they're changing careers and they're pondering what they need to do and how they need to do it. And of course, we'd go on vacations every year down to Orange Beach in Florida, and we see all the condominiums and all the real estate signs, and we thought that might be something that would be fun to do. My mother happened to be an independent contractor for another firm, a small boutique here in town. And she actually gave me this book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I think I was pretty motivated, Jared. No income, two kids in college, right? I was pretty motivated. I think I read this book in one setting. And the thing that struck me, a couple things. One, the title says it's not about the money. It's about being the best you can be. Mm-hmm. And that really appeals to me. I want to master whatever I do in life. I want to be the very best I can be at it. And so there's always opportunity to grow there, right? When you want to be the best. The second thing that appealed to me is that when I'm reading this book, it's all about systems and models. And of course, that appeals to me as an engineer. And I'm going, wow, if I just follow the models, I can do this thing. Mm-hmm. So my mom and I and my wife, we had moved back to Mississippi. Uh, I found a Keller Williams in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so I picked up the phone and called the owners and set an appointment with them. So my wife and Marcia and I went and met with the owners of the Keller Williams franchise in Baton Rouge. And there's total strangers. They don't know me from Adam. And they were gracious enough to open up their books to me. You know, we're an open company,
it's
right?
pretty, probably coming from outside of this company, that's a shock that they would even do that.
Yeah. And so it's like they opened their books up to me, a total stranger, because we're an open, transparent company, right? That's just part of our culture, part of Keller Williams. And I was able to look at their P&L and go, wow, I can replace that oil and gas income. So right there in Baton Rouge, I ordered 3 tickets to fly my mom and my wife and I to meet Gary Keller and his executive team. And we wanted to talk about getting a franchise in the Jackson area. And basically, the team gave us a stiff arm and said, not so quick, young man. We want to be in business with the right people.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our due diligence on you. And I said, well, knock yourself out. I think I'm a pretty good guy. And they did.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, they did. They made me spend a lot of money and take tests and go to different classes they were offering to see if I was very serious about it, which I was. And so they came back and finally said, we'll award you a franchise on 3 conditions. I said, okay, what are they? And they said, well, 1, you have to have about $300,000 in the bank. I said, okay, what's number 2? You've got to have an opening strength because it's got our name on it. It's going to say Keller Williams, and we don't
Put
fail.
their name on.
Yeah, we're just not going to put the name on anything. So we want to make sure you got money in the bank, that you're solid, and we're going to require you to have at least 50 agents to open your business. I said, okay. What's the 3rd condition? They said, you've got 2 months to do it in.
And I think it's important to note, how long had you had your real estate license at this point?
At this point, I didn't have my license. I wasn't a licensed realtor. I didn't even know what commission splits were, right? I just know that I saw something, I felt like that I could go for it. And so we did. And my mom, I said, Mom, who do you know? And she would give me an agent's name, and I would sit down and talk to her about an opportunity. And immediately I had 84 people that said, yes, I see this as a great opportunity for me and for us. And so we were able to submit an application to Gary Keller with 84 agents fulfilling the capital that we needed. And they awarded us the franchise. And we opened up in the Byram, Mississippi area, January 3rd, 2006. And immediately, once we opened, about 20 agents left us. I mean, almost immediately.
Do you know why they left?
Don't really know.
No.
I think that they got nervous, scared, whatever, and decided to go back to their former broker. Maybe the broker bought them back. Maybe it's because we were a startup and they were unsure. At that time, we were Keller Who.
Yeah, I was going to say, not a lot of people here knew who Keller Williams was.
No one knew who Keller Williams was. Now, they knew my mom. My mom has a great reputation. And at the end of the day, you know, they want to see proof is in the pudding, right?
Right.
And so here we go. We started off, we lost about 20 agents right off the bat. And so we're down to somewhere between 50 and 60 agents. So we started in Byram January 3rd, 2006. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And then so you started in Byram, but then just later that year, you made the decision to go ahead and move up to Flowood. What made you decide to do that?
So it was obvious to us that we had opened a franchise on the very edge of our market territory. That's the south end of our territory. And it made more sense to be centrally located, particularly if you're going to grow and you want agents to come along. Agents from Madison or up in this area are not necessarily going to drive to Byram to want to be a part. So we felt like we needed to get more centrally located. So we had 2 offices at the time. We had this office and we had that office down there. And finally, Kroger bought us out of our lease because they wanted to expand. So we were operating with 2 leases at the same time, which harmed our profitability somewhat on the get-go. But you know, it is what it is, and God's faithful. He's provided for us. So that's why I described it.
guess so. You know, for Kroger to come along and do that, you know, it's you got to be doing what's in God's plan for God to make those things happen. So I'm glad you're in Flowood because that's where I found you.
Yep.
And That's where I live. So it makes it easy for me. I'm sure a lot of agents here, and then like you said, Madison and everywhere else. So now you're centrally located,
Yes.
and moving forward, what have we accomplished here? Because I mean, I'm even I've almost 3 years here myself
Right.
now. But as I came into the business, Keller Williams is pretty much the top of the or is the top of the market here.
I would say so. Yeah.
And so what brought us from that 2006 start with 80 down to 50, almost 50, and then
Right.
back up to where we are now? What have we accomplished here to get where we are?
Well, so one of the things that I started recognizing was our people and our people's mindset. And I would I'm a statistics kind of guy. I look at numbers and I look at stats and all those kind of things continuously and regularly and try to understand how to drive them. And one of the things that came to my knowledge was that most of the agents we had at that time were kind of moms, and they had a provision at home with their husbands or whatever. So it wasn't something that they really needed to do. And I started looking at the numbers and I started communicating to our people, you guys are rocking it out. Did you know that you had more closed units than any other market center, in the state? And they didn't know that. And so you took more listings. So we started getting the stats. And what they came to understand is that they were rocking it out. They were absolutely nailing it. And we continued to provide classes and education and training. We would encourage them to go to all of the events and training that Keller Williams has to offer because it's plenty. And we just started seeing their personal businesses grow as they engaged in the business. And their mindset went from, I'm just doing this kind of in my spare time, part-time, to I'm a real estate professional. Matter of fact, we're the best in the industry.
Right.
Does that make sense? So what we did is we were able to actually help them understand who they are. And one of the things that we get in bold is that it's about be, do, have. You've got to be before you can do, before you can have. So it's about becoming the best version of yourself. And we talk a lot about that and helping people become the very best version of themselves.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that drew me to Keller Williams, and
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people, and not just drew me here, but it's kept me here.
Sure.
Is that the culture of helping each other succeed and grow, not just grow a business, but grow as an individual.
Right.
And that, just like you like to point to the sign up
Yep.
here, you grow to or your business grows to the extent you
Right.
do, and so that kind of a mindset and instilling that into people is a big part of why I'm here. And I
Now,
love that
one
about
of the things
KW.
that I personally did, because you're asking how we got there, is I took ownership personally of our mission statement, right? And our mission statement says to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, and lives worth living. And as the operator of this market center, I felt a personal call to make sure, is this a business worth owning for you, Jared? Is this a business worth owning for our other agents? I need to make sure that I'm providing the resources that I can so that you have a business. Am I teaching the proper fundamentals about economics and profit and loss and those type of things, right? Careers worth having. Am I leading the pack on that? So I wanted to be true to our mission statement, lives worth living, right? So it's not all business, it's God family business. And that's in alignment with who I am. And that's an easy for me to help our agents get into that alignment. Because once we're in alignment, then beautiful things happen.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of where I hung out. For a season, I was making sure that we're absolutely delivering on our mission statement. And I believe we have, and I believe we are, and we will continue to do that. And I would describe it like this. A baby first learns to crawl, then walk, then run. And quite honestly, Keller Williams, our company here, we're just now learning how to get up and walk steadily. And we're going to be running. The future is so bright for us. We're just beginning. I'm very excited about that.
Well, you talk about the mission statement and what we're trying to do here. And I think a good indicator of that, not just locally, but Keller Williams as a company as a whole, but looking at the local numbers, we have profit share.
Right.
And how we've grown that.
Yeah.
How much have we given in profit share back to these
it's
agents?
over $1.5 million, and we're approaching $2 million in profit sharing as we speak. And so my long-term goals which aren't so long, it's in the next 3 to 5 years, my desire is for us to be able to give back $1 million in profit sharing to our agents in one single calendar year. And I believe with the leadership team that we have in place now and the agents that's going to be joining us, we'll be able to do that very quickly. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I believe we'll hit that goal. Won't that be cool?
I
Because here's
believe
one
it.
of the things that you look at. You first have to think a million, right? You have to think a million. This is in Gary's book
Mm-hmm.
here, by the way. Think a million, and then you earn a million or gross a million. Then you net a million, right? And then you give a million. And so we're approaching where we'll be able to give $1 million back to our agents in one single year, and that excites me to no end because the stories I'm hearing of what our agents are able to do with that money and for their families, it just brings you to tears on some of
Oh yeah.
the great stuff they're doing.
Well, I like that. And it's just another thing about being able to um, be invested in the company, be an owner, part
Right,
owner of the company,
right,
just as an agent. And
exactly.
so, and that's without any, I can do that without writing you a check.
That's
I
right.
can just, I
You have
can,
no risk at
you know,
all. It all sits over here.
and so that's a neat thing. I don't think you see a lot of places, and it just goes back to what the principles that
Yep,
the company is founded on.
yep.
Well, talking about you a little bit more personally from, I guess as a part of this, but I have here on my sheet that you were awarded Entrepreneur of the Year
That's
for
right.
the state of Mississippi
Yep.
last year's. Tell me about that. What do you think brought you to that?
I think that some people saw me as that kind of thing and entered me in, and they awarded me that, and I was very honored to receive that. Am I an entrepreneur? I guess so. When you look at the risks that we took when we left everything behind in Houston, in the Woodlands, Texas, in the oil and gas industry, and stepped out here and started with nothing, absolutely nothing, and built it up from scratch, working with great people like yourself. That's kind of entrepreneurial.
I think it sounds like it is.
So anyway, I'm humbled that they recognize me in that capacity, but it's really a collective effort. We did this. It wasn't anything that I did.
Mhm. And you've also been part of the leadership with MAR.
That's right.
Um,
Taught in school, taught contract law agency and license law for a number of years, was heavily involved there, participated in that. It's a great group. I got to know a lot of agents across the state and develop those relationships. And it's all about furthering, real estate here in the state of Mississippi and helping the consumers and protecting the consumers with new legislations and things like that. So I'm very excited to be a part of that group.
yeah. And so I saw you got the shirt on today.
Yep,
You are a MAPS coach,
I
which
am.
if you're not familiar with Keller Williams has a coaching division,
That's right.
which is MAPS,
Yes.
and you are a MAPS coach.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what that's like,
I
and I guess
consider that a high honor. The company recognized me and our market center in the top 6% of all Keller Williams across the country. And so what they're saying is it was well run. I provided great leadership, and they asked me to coach other owners specifically. So I have a roster of other operating principals across the country, California, New York, New England, all over that I'm coaching other operators who are trying to, there is no try, right? Whose intentions are to make their market centers one of the most profitable in Keller Williams. So we've been very profitable. And again, I just believe that this is blessings from above, and I'm just trying to be a good steward of what I've received. So that's how I came into MAPS.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been doing MAPS coaching?
So this will
Doing
be
that?
my second year, so it's relatively new. I have been in coaching for 14 years. So
With a coach of your
I have
own.
a coach that's coached me, and I would tell you that coach has been a tremendous part of our success as a market center. Absolutely, I'd give him 95% and me the 5%. So he's been very effective in helping me as a leader and as an owner of the company drive this market center so that we have the profits and we can share the profit sharing that we've been sharing. So currently, I have, I think, three, maybe four coaches that are coaching me.
Well,
So I believe in making that investment in myself, right?
I will tell you, and this stood out to me. I mentioned this to you when we went to the mega camp event,
Right,
and everybody at the event who had maps had the emblem on there, and
right.
I was surprised because going into it, I'm thinking that's I can't imagine that many people do that,
Yeah,
but they do a lot. And if you talk to those people, those are the people who are really succeeding at a higher level. And so I definitely see the benefit of that. And you coach other owners, but I mean they do that. They
exclusive
do
owners.
that
Yep,
at all levels,
yep,
from the individual agent all the way up to
yep.
that.
So it goes back to the sign right here. Your business grows to the extent you do. If you're not willing to make an investment in yourself, how can you expect anyone else to make that investment, right?
Right.
Yourself is the biggest thing that you have to sell, right? And so we need to be the very best version of ourselves. And here's the thing, the goals and dreams that I want to accomplish in the next 5 years is going to require me to continue to grow and change and learn and be a more effective leader to obtain those things.
Hmm.
What I'm doing today will not get me there.
Right.
Right. And so we always need to be looking, what do I need? Who do I need to become so that I can get to next? And
Yeah.
again, this book says it's not about the money. Remember that?
Right.
It's not about the money. It's about being the best you can be.
So in talking about in becoming the best you can be and
Right.
identifying the roadmap to that. If you're not familiar with the book or some things, that we have what's called a 135 or a GPS,
Yes.
and I know for a fact you use those, and you preach
You know
those.
for a fact?
I know for a fact, but tell me about your plan looking forward. Your GPS. What's on that? Give us a snapshot of that going forward to the future.
So going into the future, there's only a couple of things on there. One is I want to continue to grow our market center, and I want us to become $1 million profit sharing company. So that's my intentions, is to help us grow that so I can give that back to the agents. The second thing I would say that's on there is developing visionary leaders that can go out and create other leaders, right? So I want to pour into people that I see that have the potential to become leaders of their own thing. The cool thing about Keller Williams is that you can have businesses inside of this company. Can you see that? Yeah.
Excuse me, but yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah. So I want to help people become the very best version. So my part of my future, part of my 135 is developing visionary leaders.
Yep, and then going into just for people to know how do you implement that on a weekly basis? You've got a 135, that's your target. So what's the daily and weekly? How do you
So
keep on track?
So how do I keep on track? So that would be called a 411,
Mhm.
right? And so the 411 stands for, there's 4 weeks, right, in a month, and there's 1 month, right? So 4 weeks, 1 month, and 1 year. So you have your annual goals, you'll have your monthly goals, and so if you're on track to hit your monthly goals, you'll hit your annual goals, correct? And so
Yeah.
then we have the 4 weeks, and the weeks are really more like activities. What are the activities I'm doing this week that's so that I can hit my monthly goal? That's the 411.
Yeah, and so I know you got that. Now in your business, you're not, I guess you still do a little bit of work as an agent
A little
yourself.
bit, very little.
Um,
Mostly it's requests that come in, Phil, will you list my house? Will you list this commercial property? Will you do this? For people that know me very closely, and I
mhm.
tend to say, yes, I will do that. I'm not doing a lot of real estate anymore. With the coaching and with running a couple of market centers and things like that, I really don't have that kind of time anymore.
Yeah. So, as an agent, using scripts is
Right.
a big deal. Do you still have scripts that you use?
Well, I do have scripts that I use, and you'll hear me rattle them out all the time. Your business grows 6 cents, you do.
Mhm.
To me, that's a script, right? If I am working on creating visionary leaders, that's a script, right? And so there's other scripts that I've used. And I remember when I first got in the business, when I was working on for sale by owners and expired listings, because I didn't really know anybody after being gone for 27 years. I relied heavily on scripts, and I would practice them every day. You can imagine, in my world, I live a very time blocked life,
Uh, I'm
right?
I'm well aware.
So I'm a very time block person, and I will role play and practice with scripts. And I have
Mhm.
role play partners that
That was
I
gonna be my next question.
yeah, I've had role play partners that I have practiced with. Now, after 14 years, I don't do that so much. because you'll go back to, a few. Uh, and the scripts I would have used when I was getting started, it might look like this. If you want to know an example of one, the seller, let's call him a FISBO, say, "Oh, I've got a brother that's a realtor," and so I know my script for that. Really? So is your brother working full time or part time? Is your brother? You really want your brother to know about all your business? And then if that didn't work, I'd say your brother can send me a referral fee. I work full time. I'm gonna get your property sold for the most amount of money, and I'm happy to pay your brother a referral fee, so you don't have to feel bad for not giving your brother the listing. Do you think those 3 scripts could possibly get me that listing?
They're not going to hurt.
No, they're not going to hurt. So I understand going into business with someone what their objections are. I've been there, done that, and I understand what their major objections are. And so I've got to have a script to overcome that. Now, I will tell you early on, I had a little bit of a phobia about scripts, and I think new agents do have phobias about it.
Yeah, I think generally people kind of come in with a bad idea
Yeah.
about
And so,
what scripts
so
are.
let me put it to you this way. Do you like the movies? Do you go to the movies? You watch movies?
Sometimes.
Well, my wife will say that I love movies, by the way. My wife will say I could be watching Indiana Jones or something like that, and I'll be sitting there at the TV with my mouth hanging open, kind of mumbling the words. And so here's the cool thing about it. Those actors are so good, you don't know that they are following a script. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're living it out, and I'm in the movie with them because they're so good at their scripts. Now, scripts are not something that needs to sound rote. You need to internalize them and make them your own. But the gist is to help you overcome an objection. And if you do it enough, when you get an objection, you can go automatically to it. You can replay that tape and do it in such a way that it's personal and it helps you get the business.
Yeah.
And if you want to succeed in this business, you're going to have to overcome some objections.
Yeah. And what I've learned and the way I feel about it, it's not about knowing the words of the script. It's about the pathway of thinking to get to a meeting with that person.
Yeah.
Because they don't know the script, right? But they have their internal script that they didn't.
I will tell you that they know their scripts. The sellers know their scripts. It's kind of like, I'll give you this example. If we go to Kohl's or go to Dick's Sporting Good and you walk in, what does the guy say to you?
Okay. Can I help you with anything?
Can I help you? So see, you already know his script too.
Uh-huh.
And what's your script to that?
No, I'm just looking.
No, I'm just looking, right? So see, you both know your scripts. And so if you want to be successful at Dick's, successful salesperson, you need to understand, how do I overcome that? How do I overcome that? And what script can I use so that I overcome that? So you'll actually ask me for help instead of saying, no, I'm just looking. Does that make sense? And there are some scripts you can use that will help you be effective and get the sale.
Right. When I used to work at Best Buy,
Gotcha.
And theirs was against to try to help with that was, what brings you in today?
Yeah.
So it's just something, and that's what this is. It's that, what can we do to get out of that?
That's right.
That
it's about,
we know the objection we're going to get. Well, let's get past it.
We're professional salespeople, right?
Right.
And so that's the thing I was trying to communicate in the early days is we're professional salespeople. We're not just a stay-at-home mom or mom or whatever that looks like. And I don't mean to diminish stay-at-home mom. My wife, I thank God that she was able to spend the time that she was with our 3 children, right? That's a tremendous amount of work. And now she's doing it with our grandchildren. And I know that's a tremendous amount of work. So I'm thankful that she's in that role. And she's also a very successful salesperson. She's had a very successful career in real estate.
Yeah, well, she has, and then and you have definitely too. So I know you read a lot.
Yep.
What if you had a recommendation, some books you'd recommend, or what are you reading right now?
There's probably about 20 different books. I'm not even sure I know all the titles at this time. And I got them scattered all over the place because I process, I'll read a little bit, I'll highlight, and I'll process that. And I can go to a different book and process something totally different so they don't confuse me. But I've got books all over the place. Obviously, this is one of the best ones that's ever been written right here, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I encourage everybody that's in this business to read this book 12 times a year, once a month. It's that important. This is the foundation.
A lot of people don't read one book in a month, period. So to read the same book 12 times over is a lot.
So I'm reading Profit First. I'm reading When Machines Take Over. I'm reading Platform Revolutions. I'm reading The Trusted Advisor. And I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
A lot of books. I believe there's wealth of information in books, right? We grow to the extent our business, or we grow, our business grows, we do. And the only way we're going to grow is by picking up people who have gone before, successful people, and learning from others who have gone before us.
Well, I know this book is a big part of the foundation of this business,
Yes.
and can be for anybody in real estate. Um, are there maybe one or two other books you'd say, maybe in real estate, maybe just in general, anybody, because this is going out to people outside of real
Sure.
estate too.
Well, I love The One Thing that Gary wrote. I think that is a great book that helps you understand what's the one thing I could be doing such that if I did that, nothing else matters. So it helps you get, it's got a focusing question. And so whatever you want to accomplish in your life, by asking that one question, it could be spiritual, it could be wealth, it could be health. Doesn't matter what the category is. That question is a focusing question that will help you have a richer, fuller life. There's about 7 disciplines there, and that book will help you across any endeavor.
Yeah, well, that's probably one of my favorites,
Yep.
just in general. And the idea that it's not about being disciplined all the time. It's about being disciplined enough to develop the habits so that you don't have to just force yourself into discipline all the time.
So I believe that time blocking and having the right habits will get you farther than anything else you can do. A hit or miss approach to things does not work. You have to be systematized. And that's the engineer in me speaking, right? That's my passion is really systems and models and adhering to those. And I believe that my success has been layered with those kind of things, with the 411s, with the 135s. You can ask my wife, oh my God, go back and look at my goal sheets that I would have and the things I wanted to accomplish. You know, you look at it and every one of them have been checked off, right? And it's because I'm focused.
Yeah, and I think that's you've got your original 135 back there in your office, and I think that's neat. If you're here and if you're at Keller Williams, you in the office, go back and check that out at some point. It's neat to see where we were and how that's materialized into where we are.
Yep.
And so, kind of moving forward, I know you read books. That's why I wanted to ask that all the time. Are you doing any classes? Are you attending any classes? Are you part of anything right now?
Well, so some of the classes that I'm going to want to attend in the future will be Quantum Leap again. I've gone to Quantum Leap, and that's about the whole picture.
Yeah, I want to do that one.
Yep. So that's a great class. There'll be other classes I'll go to, leadership classes and things like that, coaches skills camp, advanced coaches skills camp. I really want to master, only been a coach for a couple of years, right? I really want to master the ability to help people have breakthrough success. And I believe asking the right questions is the key to that. And understanding how to get people into action is another part of it. And so that's what I want to master. So anything around leadership is what I'm reading, classes I'm going to go to. That you'll see me up in those classes.
Yeah. That's another thing. Just going back to what Keller Williams is all about. You know, training was a big thing when you first get in, but it's not just that. There's always all these like you mentioned, Quantum Leap,
Right.
Other things around just any part of your business, lead generation or whatever it may be. There's classes offered, and then the Quantum Leap is one that I'm interested into. Have not been to, but I do want to go to that one. Well, I already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think you've reached your potential?
Heck no.
Do you think you're even close?
No. I think it's just like I described the market center. We're just getting up on wobbly legs. And so that's exciting when you realize that, hey, I'm not at the end, I'm at the very beginning. And I think a lot of that mindset is realizing how much more is out there, right? It's huge. It's wide open. I've only touched the tip of it. So it comes down to what's my appetite for learning. And that's the thing. Another part of Keller Williams is that we're a learning-based company. Everybody that succeeds in this company are learning-based. That means they want to grow. They want to learn. Right. We're not done yet. We got a lot in front of us.
Well, I think another way to ask that question I think is interesting is, do you know what your potential is?
I wish I did. I really don't. No, I don't know what my potential is. Only God knows. And I look at that relationship, and that's a big part of my success, by the way. Everything that I've done in this company is I believe I'm spirit led.
Hmm.
Gary would say that he is a spiritual being having a minor physical experience, and I love that description. I think
Hmm.
that's accurate, and that's who I am. The move to Mississippi, it was prayerfully considered. It was prayerfully considered. So everything that I do in my life, I surrender to our Lord in heaven, and I'm constantly asking for wisdom and direction and knowledge, and so that I can be the very best I can be. So I don't know what the potential is; only He knows, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, and I may have heard you say this. I know I've probably heard Gary say it, in talking about that with people, is people will almost be quick to tell you what they think their potential is a lot
Mm,
of times if they haven't thought about this.
yeah.
And or at least if they won't tell you what their potential is, they'll tell you what they can't do.
Uh huh.
Um, and how do you know? How do you know you can't do it?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been a mindset thing that I've picked up that I like. But
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a tape that plays in the back of my head. I had the fortune of being around my grandmother quite a lot growing up. And one of the things she always embedded in my brain was, Phil, you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. And that tape is playing in my head. And so there's not, for me, there's not any limitations because I've got that tape playing, right?
mhm.
And even if it is a limitation, because I've got that tape plan, I got to figure out how to get through it because I can get through
Oh yeah,
it. Now, that's not coming from a place of cockiness. It's coming from a place of just, I've had that instilled in me since I was a little bitty guy.
yeah. Well, that makes a difference.
It does
Having
make a
that.
difference.
So we know where we are now, and I know you've talked a little bit about your plans. What's next? Where are we going from here?
So, from my perspective, it goes back to think a million, right? Gross a million, net a million, make a million, or keep a million, and then give a million away. And so, I mean, I'm not a monetary guy. Money does a lot of great goods, and the money can help a lot of people. And so, there's nothing that would thrill me more than for us to be able to give $1 million away in one single year back to our agents, so that they can fund their perfect life and do those things. So that's the path we're on. In the next 3 to 5 years, we'll achieve that. It will happen in a single year, and we're absolutely on that path if you look at our growth.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see you hit that and be a part of it.
Good.
On the receiving end, I hope, but also on the giving in part of it.
Yep.
So
We have a gap there of somewhere around 450 to $500,000 currently. So we're giving almost $500,000 away a year. So a gap of about 500, and I believe that gap can be closed in the next 3 to 5 years.
well, I think so. I think if it can be done, you're going to be the one to help make it happen.
Well, I hope I'm a part of it, and it's going to be us, the team, all of us collectively together doing it. So I'm very excited about being a part of a team. I love teamwork. I've always been a part of team. Sports was a big part of my life growing up, and there's nothing better than being able to cross the finish line together with someone.
Yeah. Well, every great team has a great leader. So
Well, thank you,
I'm happy to have you here
thank you.
as as that leader, and I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down on this podcast
Sure,
and all the stuff that you do,
yeah,
the podcast, and helping us as agents to grow our business here.
it's my pleasure.
So, well, thank you here, and Phil has a slogan we like to close out on. Do you want us to tell you? Do you want to say how you came up with this, or you just want to give us your slogan?
Changing lives, living the dream.
Uh-huh.
It's just about helping people change their lives so they can live the dream. That's part of my vision. I want to be a change agent for people. Everyone has potential, and maybe they need a grandmama to tell them, you know what, Jared, you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. And maybe I'm going to be that person that's going to speak that into your life.
Well, I appreciate it. I know you are that person for a lot of people. So,
Well, it's my
thank you
pleasure.
for that.
It's my pleasure.
And like you said, We're changing lives and living the dream.
Living the dream.
This has been a production of Keller Williams Realty in Flowood, Mississippi, located at 132 Riverview Drive, Suite A. To contact our offices, call us at 601-977-9411.